Good evening and welcome to KUTV Primetime News. We're beginning in a moment. Right, welcome to the broadcast. My name is Daphne Orina, stepping in for Mutegi K. Martin. In the broadcast, we have an interview lined up for you. Make sure you tune in to the end to catch that particular conversation. A sign language interpreter is Vivian Wangeshi, and now let's get started. President Uhuru Kenyatta has commissioned the newly upgraded Mathare Korogosho Level 5 Hospital, now known as Mama Margaret Kenyatta Children's Hospital. The facility, which boasts over 350 bed capacity, was refurbished last year at a cost of 400 million Kenyan shillings, and it now joins the list of top referral hospitals in the country. Samson Jura reports.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has presided over the launch of the newly constructed Mama Margaret Kenyatta Children's Hospital in Mathare North, Nairobi County. The hospital is set to help alleviate congestion in major hospitals in the country. The president during the launch indicated that the surrounding areas of the hospital will have its roads fixed and sewage treated so that citizens can have easy access to the facility. The hospital is NHIF accredited and will offer services such as mental health treatment, radiology, surgeries and outpatient services for children.
Na mimi nawasihi wenzangu, kila moja wenu aweze akate NHIF. Na ndio ukiwa mgonjwa unaingia hapa unaweka kidole kwa sababu ya kadi yako, unatibiwa bure, unatoka unarudi nyumbani kwako.
In fulfillment of one of the big four agendas, health, the hospital is one of the 24 hospitals that the Nairobi Metropolitan Services and the national government have been building around the country.
Na hii ni kumaanisha ya kwamba tukijikakamua kama viongozi, tufanye kazi pamoja, twaweza kubadilisha maisha ya wananchi wetu. Hii ni hospitali ambaye kwa eneo hii ndio itakuwa referral hospital ya zile hospitali ndogo ndogo ambazo tumekuwa tukijenga katika sehemu mbalimbali.
19 hospitals have been built so far, with the president saying that the new children's hospital will be completed and fully equipped in a month. Other leaders who were present at the opening ceremony include Cabinet Secretary Health Mutahi Kagwe, NMS Director General Mohamed Badi, Kenyatta National Hospital Chief Executive Officer Evanson Kamuri, and the Acting Director General for Health in the Ministry of Health Patrick Amoth, together with Nairobi Governor Ann Kananu.
Lakini kwa sababu ya hii, wananchi sasa hawatembei mbali na gharama kubwa.
The hospital's construction has been stalled for over 30 years due to administrative and financial issues. With the completion now, it will be managed by Kenyatta National Hospital. Samson Jura, KUTV.
Thank you, Jura. Now, Deputy President William Ruto has appealed to President Uhuru Kenyatta not to spearhead the campaigns of the ODM leader Raila Odinga ahead of the August polls. Speaking during the campaigns in Gatundu South, Ruto further urged President Kenyatta against using the tactics they previously employed to frustrate his bid. John Mapesta tells us more.
Finally, DP Ruto took Kenya Kwanza campaigns at President Uhuru's doorstep in Gatundu South, urging President Kenyatta to refrain from succession politics. While at President Uhuru's village home in Mtumo, Ruto requested the crowd to plead his case to the president on his behalf.
Rafiki yangu Uhuru Kenyatta anasema anataka kuunga mkono mtu akitendawili. Mimi nataka niwatume. Tafadhali, Mwambie Ruto amesema hata kama ameamua kwenda kusaidia mtu ya kitendawili, na muomba kwa unyenyekevu asitumie ile kisu nilisaidia yeye kupata kunikata miguu.
Ruto further urged President Kenyatta against using the tactics they previously employed to frustrate his presidential bid.
Ni huyo Ruto mliombewa na yeye hapa, tafadhali usimuumize. Mwambie vile vile ni ule Ruto ambaye wakati hakuna mtu alikuwa ako tayari kusaidia wewe, ni huyo Ruto alisimama na yeye.
Leaders who accompanied the second in command added weight to his calls, demanding that President Kenyatta should not publicly campaign for his successor.
Uhuru ni rafiki yetu. Kile tu tunashangaa ni hii mambo ya kitandawili. Hiyo tu. Hiyo tu. Hiyo tu.
Mukiona rafiki yetu Uhuru, mumwambie aige mfano wa mzee Kibaki. Kibaki aliendesha nchi yetu miaka 10, akainua uchumi. Wakati alimaliza, alienda nyumbani polepole.
Mimi kama mama naona mheshimiwa rais wetu amepoteza njia, kwa sababu anatuambia maneno ya TPIM na TRR.
Kenya Kwanza leaders promised to solve issues affecting Katundu residents, among them land injustice and deteriorating economy, should they be given a chance to lead the country. George Mapesa, KUTV.
Still on politics, the Azimio la Umoja crew set camp in the capital today, with various politicians allied to the outfit calling on the electorate in Kamukunji to back Raila Amolo Odinga's presidential bid, terming him as one with a clear vision for the nation. They further hit out at the deputy president and the Kenya Kwanza team for being disrespectful to the president. ODM party leader Raila Odinga is expected to appear before the National Cohesion and Integration Commission after returning from his trip to the United Kingdom to explain in which context he used the term Madoadoa during the Azimio la Umoja rally in Wajir County. NCIC boss Samuel Kobia said the commission has declared war on all forms of hate speech emanating from political leaders, saying the commission is in talks with interreligious councils to spread messages of peace ahead of the August polls. He, however, said Odinga is a law-abiding leader and said in spite of his position, he already apologized publicly. Now, the High Court today struck out an application that sought to see IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati jailed for refusing to open the servers of the 2017 disputed general elections. In the case, activist Helif Khalifa moved to court seeking to have Chebukati held in contempt for denying ODM leader Raila Odinga and Kenyans access to the servers used in the 2017 presidential election. However, IEBC objected the application by Khalifa, arguing that the High Court did not have jurisdiction to hear and determine the matter. Justice Edwin Ogundi allowed the application by the electoral body and struck out the application by Khalifa, ruling that the court did not have jurisdiction to hear the matter. Judge Ogundi further faulted Khalifa for filing the application before the Supreme Court, which was the court that had initially given orders to Chebukati to open the servers. In matters education now, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has slammed down the possibility of emergence of any negative impact following the recent reports of cases of exam cheating in the ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary School exams. The latest being Eastleigh High School, where 2 candidates were nabbed with mobile phones minutes to exam kickoff, and in Siaya, more than 40 students at Diboro Secondary School in Osunga were today hauled to Siaya Police Station after they were found with cell phones that had examination leakages.
While addressing the issue of exam irregularities at Kanyariri Secondary School in Kabete, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha called on the candidates to give up the cheating practice, declaring that they were bound to fail, saying the ministry will apply utter strictness to protect the exam's integrity, even in the marking process, to ensure not a single student who is involved in the cheating will go scot-free.
And when they have those cell phones in the classroom, then you allow messages to be brought to the classroom, and then the students will have to compromise the invigilator so that they can read for them or print for them, or they write on the table, and then we shall catch them because they will all write the same thing. So if you find that eventually we have caught 1 or 2 schools where results are not coming out, there is no way 2 people can write the same answer using the same words.
Early this morning, 2 students from Eastleigh High School in Nairobi were allegedly found in the possession of 5 mobile phones just minutes to the commencement of the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education Chemistry Practical paper.
Now here at Eastleigh High School, we have 2 students who have been found with phones. They have been found with about 5 phones. Fortunately, in this area, we have enough security officers.
Addressing media at the school, the State Department of Early and Learning and Basic Education Principal Secretary Dr. Julius Juan said the ministry has collaborated with security agencies and launched investigations into the matter.
So the DCI team have already seized the phones. They are going to process them, and they will then advise us on what they find, because that will determine our next course of action. But as for the students, we'll process them as an irregularity in terms of having phones in school during exams.
Despite the discovery, he said that the 2 candidates will, however, continue to sit their exams as an investigation was being carried out.
So we'll not speculate. They will be allowed to sit their exams as normal, but the issues will move on as we go along.
We have not known where the exam was being leaked from, but we have a key suspect who is at large. We are looking for the suspect, and we have brought about 42 students who are in that forum so that they can assist us in the investigation.
Elsewhere in Siaya Sub-County, Police Commander Benedict Mwangangi has confirmed the arrest of 42 students from Diboro Secondary School in Usonga who were today hauled into Siaya Police Station after they were found with cell phones that had examination leakages. The students, together with the examination officials and teachers, will have to record statements and aid in investigations.
That aside, the Kenya Roads Board has approved the sponsorship of 100 border operators for training and licensing in Garissa County to ensure that the border sector is well regulated. The board's Director General Rashid Mohammed disclosed that was the biggest number they have sponsored in a single county since the beginning of the year.
According to the NTSA, over 3,000 people die annually from road traffic crashes, amounting to massive of livelihoods. Human behavior accounts to over 80% of these accidents, which includes overspeeding, drunk driving, reckless driving, and destruction of phone, among others. The Kenya Roads Board, through the National Transport and Safety Authority, has spent over 20 million Kenya shillings over the last year to train borders across the country on matters safety. The board's Director General Rashid Mohammed says the money goes into training the riders on safety programs, trainings, licensing, provision of protective equipment, and institutional support to hospitals, trauma centers.
We as a government institution have a responsibility towards road safety. So we contribute to road safety in very many ways. One of them is border training. As you are aware, it's an issue that has affected many Kenyans. It's an important sector, but it's also a sector that is also causing a lot of problems in terms of road safety.
During a meeting with border riders, it also emerged that some riders were being used by drug peddlers for transportation to avoid detention by the police officers. Garissa OCPD James Ngetich warned such riders, saying that once the security personnel catches up with them, they will face the full force of the law.
That I've cautioned the borders while going forward and working together with the security agencies is to avoid being in conflict with the law. One, they should not be used to commit crimes. That is one area that they must keep off. They must not be used in committing crimes. They must not be used in causing a lot of problems during this political time.
Other counties that have received training are Kisumu, Kisii, Migori, Kilifi, Busia, Nyeri, Malindi, Machakos, Nakuru, Narok, Nyamira, Kakamega, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Kajiado. Ida Kithenji, KUTV.
Na kwenzetu wale ambao wako hapa, munakuja munadanganywa ati boda serikali haitaki. Sisi hatuna shida na mfanyabiashara wa haki. Wale ambao wanataka kutumia mambo haya for cheap politics, tafadhali njooni tufanye kazi ambayo itasaidia hawa vijana wawe na biashara ya kudumu. Ama wasemaje wewe ndugu yangu?
Well, it's time for our very first short break right here on KUTV Primetime News. Don't go too far, still to come the interview on craniofacial anomalies.
Passion ni tunda ambalo tunajaribu kuhimiza wakulima wetu wakuze kwa wingi kwa sababu ya faida zake. Mbali na kuwa ina kipato cha hali ya juu kwa wakulima wetu, iko pia na faida za kiafya.
I do basically basic photography. Nafanya family portraits, nafanya birthday shoot, nafanya engagement shoot, nafanya weddings, nafanya vitu mingi kwa photography. Juu zote nimetrainiwa na other people, my mentors wenye wako huku nje. Sasa mimi nafanya makeup na nafanya photography.
Yes. We coming back.
Access to knowledge, solution to unanswered questions.
I'm on Eco earlier today. Eco, cinema print.
And repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only.
Hata si refu iko. Kama yeah, maybe. Nilikuwa nimeweka zote.
Ukiwa na dukuduku la michezo, tunafungua sanduku la dukuduku kwa ufahamu zaidi. Kila danadana, mitimpo, mifiatuko na harakati zote ugani, sisi ni wako mwandani. Kukurukakara zote nyanjani, jezi kuangaziwa zaidi ya micharazo michezoni. Mimi mwanaspoti wako matata Peter Pinches Mwaora ndakuwa na jopo lenye maarifa sufufu nikufahamishe na nikuburudishe wewe shabiki shakiki, hakiki na kindakindaki.
Hold on a second. Yes.
Unemployment has hit you hard. Your salary is meager. You decide to venture into business, but you're struggling to thrive in it. You would want to reap a big tip on how not to run into losses.
Forget the preachy business blogs, the hyperbolic motivational speeches, and all the roads down desperation.
Hope has come with model stories from small successful entrepreneurs. We tell you these tales weekly on The Budding Entrepreneur. Join us as we help you make your trade profitable and often smile to the bank.
Lola ni programu
Welcome back to the broadcast. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KUTV and KUTV Kenya consecutively. Now, 18 people have tested positive for coronavirus from a sample size of 4,732 tested in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate is now at 0.4%. Total confirmed positive cases are now at 323,255. 19 patients have recovered from the virus, pushing recoveries to 317,546. No patient died today, leaving total fatalities at 5,647. A total of 17,278,552 vaccines have been administered. Of these, 7,906,540 are fully vaccinated and 7,949,911 are partially vaccinated. Now onto a story that is leading to a big interview tonight. Globally, people with cleft lips and palates often face stigma and rejection that comes with the condition from the society, on top of the exorbitant cost of its corrective surgery. Due to such incidences, the Love Without Reason, in conjunction with the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, organized a free medical camp to correct the deformities in the facility. Listen in. Over the years, people with cleft lips and palates, a birth defect, have often faced discrimination, rejection, being human trafficked, and even as far as being killed and outcasted from society.
Because we feel there is need for them to be treated and given back a smile, because so many people don't have any smile and they are rejected in the community. So what we do, we just give them back the hope and the smile, because loving someone without a reason is the best thing.
Most of the patients living with this condition cannot afford the high cost of treatment that one has to undergo to correct the deformity. According to Dr. Satish, a surgeon at the camp, the cost can go as high as 2.5 million Kenyan shillings per surgery, and one has to undergo a minimum of 5 procedures to completely correct the defect.
Okay, mtoto alipozaliwa, the doctor said anaweza pata shida
inaweza kuwa na shida, so lazima angefanyiwa surgery before 4 years, and tuliwahi jaribu Kijabe hospital but cost ikakuwa mingi sana, wazazi hawange afford.
Today we are screening the babies and who are born with a cleft lip, cleft palate and all. We screen them along with the blood test and other modalities. Once the babies are fit, from Monday to Friday we will be doing surgeries here. And later our Kenya team, Kenya surgeons, maxillofacial surgeons, so they will continue other surgeries also. Normally it may go up to around 20 to 25,000 US dollars.
Due to the high cost of treatment and stigmatization, Love Without Reason, a non-governmental organization in partnership with Safaricom and Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, have given hope to over 150 people with cleft lips and palates through a free medical corrective surgery.
If a child's surgery is not done within 2 years of time, the child may never speak. So we want to make sure that that surgery, if a child is in that critical time period, we want to make sure the surgery is done. Whether they are male or female, it doesn't matter. Whether they are rich or poor, it doesn't matter. Whether it is, how old they are, it does not matter. We just know that these people need the surgery and we are ready to do it for them.
The medical camp culminates today with smiles restored to the patients free of charge as they anticipate to begin a free chapter in their lives free from discrimination. So earlier this week, we had a discussion with the CEO and founder of Love Without Reason, Dr. Santosh Matthews, concerning craniofacial anomalies, and this is what transpired. Good evening and welcome to tonight's special segment of health, where we are going to decipher craniofacial anomalies, and helping me to decipher that topic is Santosh Matthews, who's the CEO and founder of Love Without Reason, an organization which has come to help people with such deformities. Thank you very much, Santosh Matthews, for having us.
Thank you, Daphne.
Perhaps to start with you introducing yourself and tell our viewers who you are and what you do and the name of your organization.
Okay, so my name is Santosh Matthews. I'm the CEO, founder, and the president of Love Without Reason. So Love Without Reason is an organization that was established in the US in 2007. So we are in the fight against human trafficking and also do craniofacial surgeries. So that's how we began. And we started doing surgeries in India, in Zimbabwe, in Uganda, and now we are also in Kenya.
Okay, you mentioned craniofacial defects and surgeries. Perhaps if you could tell us what some of them are and what causes them.
So craniofacial surgeries is what we call anything neck and above. Okay, so these surgeries could happen for patients that have had trauma, like they get into an accident, and then they can injure their faces, and then they get into trauma. Some of these surgeries are done for patients that are born with these deformities. It could be a cleft lip or a cleft palate. There are children with big heads, hydrocephalus, spina bifida. All those kind of cases also fit into the craniofacial surgery group. Okay, it can involve. It's mostly the skull and the bony structure also that is involved in those craniofacial surgeries. Okay, so it's a wide-ranging area, but Love Without Reason in Africa decided to bring it down to just focus on cleft lip and cleft palate. Okay, so a cleft lip is where a child or a person is born with an open lip. Okay, they have many words in different countries for it, but the official name is cleft lip. And then cleft palate is the opening in the roof of the mouth. Okay, and a cleft lip, there are several different types. There is a bilateral cleft lip, there is a unilateral cleft lip, it could be an incomplete cleft lip, okay, things like that. The same thing goes for the palate as well.
Love Without Reason, what was the inspiration, what was the mind behind coming up with this organization to help people with craniofacial deformities?
The motivation behind it was my son, Philip Matthews. My son was born with a lot of deformities. I was told, my wife and I, when we were pregnant with our son, we were told that he's going to be born with a cleft lip and a cleft palate, and that he didn't have a right eye, didn't have a right ear. We were told his jaw was not fully formed. We were told that he had many holes in his heart, that they couldn't count the number of holes. They also told us that he didn't have a stomach. And we were told that because he didn't have a stomach, he would be born dead. And they also told us that my wife, she had a lot of amniotic fluid, excess amniotic fluids in her womb. And they said that if she carries the baby to full term, the baby will die and she will also die. But by the prayers of a lot of people, after a few weeks of in time of intense prayer, when we went back, they found the baby's stomach, and which was a huge miracle. I believe the Lord Jesus did it. And when the miracle happened, we went through the full pregnancy. My wife was safe. The child was born with a lot of deformities. He, just like the doctor said, he had a cleft lip and cleft palate, and there was no eye, there was no ear, one eye and one ear. But thank God he was born with a stomach, And so the day after he was born, they told us a part of his brain is missing, called the corpus callosum, which is the information highway between the right and the left brain. And so we were told that he'd be basically a vegetable for the rest of his life. So that's the way we started our journey with our son. And as we went through different stages, it's a very, very long story, but and everything, we have the medical records for all of that. But as we went through that process, we saw that on one side there was the supernatural work where, where he had many holes in his heart. None of the doctors could fix it. And then after a time of prayer, all the holes were closed by themselves. The part of his brain that was missing is still missing, but he was able to do everything that the doctors said that he could never do. He went from being mentally retarded to a perfectly normal child. Okay, so that was one part of his journey. The other part of his journey was that he started to have surgery after surgery to fix his lip, to fix his palate, to fix an eye. They put a prosthetic eye, a prosthetic ear, so then they had to fix his jaw, and they had to just kind of grow him in a certain way. And so that process taught us one beautiful thing, that is that, there are other children like Philip. And we were fortunate because, like I said, Philip was born in America, and there are certain things that they do for children that are born with deformities on compassionate grounds. So we were fortunate to get some benefits and some, support from the government, and we also were doing well. So our thing at that point was, let us do something to help other children. So that is how we started Love with Our Reason, to help another child that may need this help.
Medically, what are some of the forces that could lead to craniofacial deformities, just perhaps to mention some of them and how they come into being?
Okay, so in this area, they have different kinds of answers. You talk to a panel of doctors, they will all give you different answers, okay? So let me start with my son first. As far as my son is concerned, they did a genetic test on us, they did a DNA test on the parents, and they looked into our family genealogy and history. None of them had any facial deformity. So Philip was our first baby in the entire family history of both of myself and my wife to have had a problem like this. Okay, if you ask different doctors, some will say that it is because of lack of folic acid. Some will say it is because of lack of nutrition or malnourishment, because in poverty-stricken areas you will find many children born with clefts. But then again, in the urban areas, it is easy to identify a cleft child, and most parents that identify children with clefts will abort the babies. But there's no such so-called luxury in the rural areas, in the poverty-ridden areas. So you see a lot of children born with clefts in the poverty-ridden areas and less so in the urban areas. So now, is it because of poverty, or is it because of access to, advanced medical, issues? There are some other doctors that would say that these children are born because of herbal medication given or the wrong medication given. It could possibly be different things like that. I've even had doctors say that it could be because of maybe the chemicals mixed in the waters. So there are so many factors why these children are born like that. But basically, in the womb, the face needs to be formed. It comes from two different angles and it forms. And the non-closure of the face at the end of that term is what causes the cleft. Okay? And why it happens, I don't know if there's a concrete answer. You can never accurately predict if a child will have a cleft or not have a cleft at conception. Okay. My advice is, however the child is born, the child is a gift from God. That child has a purpose. That child has a life. Let's make the best use of it.
What are some of the challenges that people with cleft lips and palates and the general, the craniofacial deformities, what do they undergo in society, and what have you done to help such people?
So there are, for a child from having a cleft lip, of course it's the looks, the mental trauma, the mental anguish. There is a lot of bullying going on that can lead to mental trauma and psychological issues. It's a huge problem that they will go through because of the cleft lip. Okay, the cleft palate is another huge area. Some moms will come back home and say, I don't want to look at that child. So that child grows up neglected. The child also grows up isolated and will not be allowed to go to school in many communities. The child cannot mingle socially with other people. So as these things happen, what happens is the child is uneducated, does not have a job, cannot get married, okay, and a burden to the family. And what happens is the family sells these children. And these children are sold for bonded labor. Sometimes they're sold for beggary. They go out on the streets and beg for food. Many of these children are sold for their organs. There's an organ trafficking, organ harvesting industry that is going on. So what happens is they sell them for their hearts, their kidney, their lungs, different parts of their body, because their face is messed up, but the rest of the body is fine. They sell them for their organs. So when we do the surgery, what happens is that child is at less risk for being sold into the organ harvesting or this kind of human trafficking rings. So as soon as the surgery is done, they turn from a curse to a celebrity, basically, from a curse to a blessing. So as soon as they go home, now they become a completely different person. And people all over now love this child. How did this happen? This is a miracle. Things start to change. And there is an opportunity for a new life. So that is what we do. That's what I feel is the most significant part of what Love Without Reason does.
What are the implications of untreated, or rather untreated deformities, like for instance the cleft palates and cleft lips?
A child born with a cleft palate is a major problem in terms of feeding. Okay, when a child is fed milk, either breastfed or bottle fed, the milk sometimes will go through the other channels, could enter the lungs, it could cause pneumonia, it would come back through the nose, cause a lot of discomfort. These children will not be able to feed. So a lot of them end up malnourished. Okay, and because they end up malnourished, eventually some of them will die. So that is a significant problem. It's a vicious cycle because they can't feed, they are malnourished, and because they are malnourished, they don't have enough weight, and because they don't have enough weight, they can't get the surgery done, and the cycle continues, you see? So we have to figure out a way to help these children be able to feed. The second major issue with a child with a cleft palate is the speech part. Okay, if a surgery is not done within 1.5 to 2 years' time, the speech muscles that is in the palate will not develop. Okay, and of course there is an opening in the upper roof, and therefore the voice, the sounding board, I'm just using layman's terms because of the audience, the sounding board will not reflect the sound, and therefore the sound is not produced. It goes up through the nose, and there's a hissing sound that comes out. So when the palate is fixed, if it is not done by a good surgeon, a reputed surgeon, somebody who understands what he or she is doing, then the child may never speak. So it has to be done very carefully. Palate surgeries are not easy. Most people don't do palate surgeries because, first of all, there is no market value for that, if you know what I mean. You have a child with a cleft lip and a cleft palate, you take before pictures, after pictures. There is, there's some publicity that can be done with it. But with the palate, nobody does that, so it becomes a major problem. A lot of children have cleft lips repaired, but not their palates. One is there are not enough qualified, really good surgeons who do the cleft palate thing. Second is most organizations don't care. But as far as we are concerned, with Love Without Reason, we focus a lot of functionality. Okay, it is important that these children have a voice. Their voices should be heard. So these are the two major issues that we have with a child with a cleft palate.
After undergoing surgery, of course, we expect post-surgical care. What exactly should one do after surgeries, and what are the consequences of not actually adhering to those measures?
See, after a surgery is done, it's extremely important that the palate is not messed with, like a child putting a finger in the mouth or puncturing the sutures. The other part is that the child should not have solid or semi-solid or even what do you call that, fibrous food that can get lodged in the stitches, that can cause infection and open up this thing. So a parent need to be extremely careful after palate surgery. Okay, so when after the surgery is over, they're only supposed to be on a liquid diet for a certain amount of time till the stitches heal completely. Okay, most parents, they feel sad for their children because the children are crying, right, and they give them something, and then the sutures open up and they're like, oh, the doctors did wrong. No, it's not. It's not. It is a carelessness of the parents. They should never, after the palate surgery is done, they should keep the patient free from solid foods, semi-solid foods. Listen to the instructions of the surgeons. Okay, so that could cause it to open up also. So these are the issues that people have to be very careful about.
How many surgeries should they undergo to actually be completely healed?
We advise the parents that after 6 months you can do your lip surgery. Then they could go in for their palate surgery, but the palate surgery has to be between we recommend ideally 1.5 years to 2 years. Okay. After that, we let the patients go through speech therapy. They'll have to go through speech therapy. They'll have to help the child, speak, because their mouths are different from the normal mouths, So they have to learn how to twist their tongue. They have to learn how to reproduce sounds, all of that. And then by 8, 9 years old, they will start to understand, maybe 5, 6 years old, they will start to have to look into orthodontist. They'll have to go and, because their teeth would have started to grow, and some tooth would have fallen off, some may still be there. So they'll have to start thinking about braces, maybe a little bit more older. Okay, and then there are cases where the bone in certain places would not have fused, so they'll have to go into a bone graft surgery where they would take bone marrow out and then they would put it in there so that they could fill the gaps. So there are several surgeries that can be done to help bring alignment to your face. It is not just a 1 or 2 surgery thing. It could end up being 8, 9 surgeries. In my son's case, it was 25 surgeries.
What are some of the criteria for surgeries, and what's the way forward for those people who actually don't qualify for surgeries?
Safety being our first priority. We want to make sure that the child is of good age, good weight. We make sure that there are no infections. We make sure that their lab results and everything come out correctly. A syndromic child, a child with different other anomalies, we try not to do them in camps, because a camp setting, children, we have to go through these surgeries very quickly. We have a large number of children or adults. We also do adults. We have a large number of people, and we cannot. If it's a syndromic child, it will need a lot more time. So normally we recommend children that are born with different syndromes not to do their surgeries in a camp setting. Okay, they can go to an independent craniofacial surgeon or to an organization that handles those kind of surgeries in a special manner. For those that have not been approved by us because of some of these reasons. I'm not talking about medical reasons. I'm talking about weight, and I'm talking about other infections or something that are temporary. We always find other partners that are also doing surgeries here. Love Without Reason is not the only one doing surgeries in Kenya. There are other organizations, wonderful organizations.
Wind up, what would you tell us? What is the big dream for Love Without Reason? Do you aspire to do more of the cleft palates and lip surgeries, or do you anticipate to begin actually the general craniofacial surgeries?
Just before my son passed away in 2019, before Philip died in 2019, he told me something. He told me and my wife Susan, he told us one thing. He said, "Dad, I want to work until the world is cleft free. I want to work until there are no more sold." These were his statements to us. And that's a huge mandate if you think about it. It's not one country, it's not one specific location. It is the whole world. And we want to do what we can to make the world a cleft-free place.
Thank you very much for your time. We hope this grows to greater heights and keep on impacting people. It's been nice having you, Santosh.
Thank you, Daphne.
Right, with that, we take our second break. We'll be back with more. Don't go too far.
KUTV Facebook page every Saturday, 4 p.m.
Mwenda wazimu naye kupitapita kwake ghafla akamwona mtu ambaye kwamba amewekwa katika kiti, anasukumwa, anaingizwa katika hospitali. Kisha naye akasema, heri mimi ni mwenda wazimu, lakini yule ambaye kwamba anasukumwa yuko katika kiti, mimi niko na afadhali, kwa sababu hali ambayo kwamba inampata yule ni ngumu zaidi kwa sababu ya maradhi ambayo kwamba yuko nayo. Kisha ghafla akakuta jeneza linapitishwa, mtu amewekwa ndani yake. Naye akasema, heri mimi niko na afadhali ambaye kwamba niko katika kiti lakini bado niko na pumzi, ninapumua. Mfano huu unatupatia mazingatio gani? Mazingatio kwamba hali ambayo kwamba uko nayo, shukuru na umhurumie yule mwingine ambaye kwamba yuko na hali mbaya zaidi.
Welcome back. Farmers and industry players in Central Region have been asked to embrace technology in agriculture, especially seed and digital technology for quality produce. The Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization carried out an expo exhibition in Thika, Kiambu County to interact with farmers in the region. Our very own Snyder Chege with more.
The Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization, KARO, steered an expo exhibition in Thika, Kiambu County, where they had an opportunity to interact with the farmers from the region. Dr. Robert Musyoki, the director, said, pointed out that the technologies from KARO were being introduced to the farmers, especially as they head to the planting season, and that through agroecology, the crop varieties recommended will have space in this era of climate change mitigations, and they were working to ensure seeds reach farmers in the villages.
Our theme, one of it was to exhibit seed technologies. Then we had also a theme of digital farming, whereby KARO has developed a lot of technologies in terms of digitization of agriculture. And of course, we also talked about the theme, which was avocado, macadamia.
Dr. Lusike Wasilo, Director Crop System at KARO, said that they have been promoting crops that still yield to ensure sufficient food stock in the country, even when rains and crop fail.
We're promoting things like sweet potato. We're promoting the grains, so things like sorghum, things like pearl millet. They've been promoted here that are really drought hardy. You know, what was missing here because we just couldn't put everything. There's so many other indigenous vegetables and other grains like quinoa, teff, which is our new baby on the block. Those are the ones that when you come the next exhibition, you'll see them. So we're trying to get ready for these changes in the climate.
KARO, in partnership with Fresco companies, have been training farmers on how to embrace tissue culture technology, as well as encouraging young farmers to venture into the new farming technology, which will employ millions of youths in the country.
So we are in essence doing public-private partnership, and we are also looking at partnering with the whole counties, the whole Mount Kenya counties, because we have realized this is the region where agribusiness booms.
Agriculture is what contributes much to our GDP. So that is where the money is. So I would advise the youth to try it, to put an open mind, to try new things.
As the new agricultural technologies booms, it continued to urge farmers and especially the youth to venture into its value chain and contribute to the economy. Snyder Chege, KUTV.
Thank you very much, Snyder. Now, across borders, the tropical cyclone that struck Mozambique last week has killed at least 53 people, a sharp rise from earlier estimates. Meanwhile, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has blamed NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That and much more on the International News Roundup with Omondi Otieno.
In recent years, Mozambique has suffered repeated devastating cyclones, and scientists believe climate change is fueling their intensity. The death toll from a cyclone that lashed northern Mozambique last week has risen to 53, as noted by authorities in the northern Nampula province. The last official toll was 22, but 31 more bodies have been found in Mosul district in the wake of Cyclone Gombe. Tens of thousands of people have been affected by the cyclone in Nampula, Mozambique's most populous province. It struck on March 11th and quickly lost strength, sparing the country even more worse damage. And away from Mozambique, Mali's ruling junta has ordered French broadcasters RFI and France 24 off the air, complaining they had falsely accused the army of committing abuses in a statement issued on Thursday. The junta is initiating proceedings to suspend broadcasters by RFI and France 24 until further notice. The European Union, however, lashed the ban as unacceptable and said the accusations on which it was based were unfounded. The French government also condemned the ban, calling it a grave attack on the liberty of the press. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has blamed NATO for the war in Ukraine and said he will resist calls to condemn Russia in comment that cast doubt of whether he will be accepted by Ukraine or the West as a mediator. President Vladimir Putin has characterized Russia's actions as a special operation to disarm and to denazify Ukraine and counter what he calls NATO aggression. Ramaphosa also revealed that Putin had assured him personally that negotiations were making progress. The South African leader said that he had not yet talked with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but he was willing to do so. On Friday, Ramaphosa said that South Africa had been asked to mediate in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. He, however, did not reveal who had asked him to intervene. And finally, United States President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping have begun their first direct talks since November amid a growing U.S. concern over Beijing's relationship with Russia and its stance on the increasing brutal war in Ukraine. This comes amidst warning from Washington that China may be considering providing military support to Russia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Thursday that Biden would make clear that China will bear responsibility for any actions it takes to support Russia's aggression. Beijing is now forced to balance its allegiance to the long-term friend Vladimir Putin and the long-term risk of escalating a major conflict with the U.S. and Europe. And that's all we had for you on the International Roundup. My name is Omondi Otieno.
Now, on to sports news. Fosca Kasisi and Yvonne Wavinya will not take part in the African Commonwealth Games qualifiers set for next week in Accra, Ghana. The duo are surprise exclusion from the final women's beach volleyball team after their instrumental role in the Tokyo qualifiers in Morocco that earned their ticket to represent Kenya and Africa continent in the Tokyo Olympic Games. Kenya Pipeline Rising Stars Veronica Adhiambo and Naomi too have been included in the squad ahead of their trip to Ghana on the 20th of March this year. Kenya's national women's volleyball team, Malkia Strikers, will be looking to draw the blood of the African rivals Cameroon in the 5th Women's World Championships. The volleyball bonanza is slated for 23rd September to 15th October and will be jointly hosted by Netherlands and Poland. In the draw, which was conducted yesterday night, 24 participating teams will be split into 4 first-round pools of 6 teams, with Malkia Strikers preparing to face host Netherlands, European champions Italy, Puerto Rico and Belgium in a tricky Pool A. Kenya will be eyeing their only second win at the championships after picking historic triumph when they stunned Kazakhstan by straight sets during the 2018 edition held in Japan.
With nobody in front of her, but it's a really good dig by Cameroon.
Now, the Court of Arbitration for Sports earlier today refused to suspend FIFA's ban on Russia taking part in the 2022 World Cup play-off finals over invasion of Ukraine. The Football Union and Russia had appealed against the suspension, hoping to gain permission to allow Russia to face Poland in a World Cup playoff that was due to have been played off on March 24th. The court, however, insisted that the challenge decision remains in force and all Russian teams and clubs will continue to be suspended from participation in all FIFA competitions. Now wrapping up our sports segment, the Champions League draw threw up a luscious range of possibilities earlier today as troubled title holders Chelsea were drawn to play 13th time winners Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. The three Well, that's where we leave it on KUTV tonight. Thanks to our sign language interpreter, Vivian Wangeshi. See you on our subsequent bulletins. Have a good night. My name is Daphne Orina.